most important videos every single year is the do's and don'ts of match coverage and playing better defense overall. I need to update this a little bit for Madden 26, so make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, hit that notification bell, grab out your pen and pad because this is going to help you. Let's go. Now, as we know, match coverage encompasses a ton of different calls. It used to just be that quarters, palms, cover 6, and cover 9 were your match-based plays. And then EA added a lot more match coverage rules for cover 3 match, and now we even have cover 2 matching rules. But if you guys don't know what you can and can't do with this coverage, that can be the entire difference between getting stops or looking lost in this coverage. So we're going to go over some important tips and tricks, starting off with utilizing shells. Now, the reason you need to use shells, specifically the cover 4 shell for your match defense, is because there are tells that separate the types of match that exist. Cover 4 quarters, as you see right here, and I'm just spreading the field out, I do not recommend quarters against empty, looks like this. However, if I call cover 4 palms, you're going to see that it looks like this against a trips formation, namely the outside corner rolls up into press coverage. To someone that's a very advanced player, that is a tell when you take a look at this coverage and you see a press corner on one side and an off coverage corner on the other. You're immediately going to notice that it is cover 4 palms. And believe it or not, these tells exist throughout the game with other formations. For instance, I run the bunch tight end offense, and there is a direct difference between how cover 4 quarters lines up against this formation and how cover 4 palms lines up in this formation. Notice the difference in the position of not only the slot corner, but that outside corner slides in just a little bit more. The point that I'm making is that stock coverages all have tells, and if you're mixing up quarters, palms, cover 6, cover 9, it would just benefit you overall to set your shell to cover 4, because this will keep everybody in a cover 4 alignment that's associated with quarters or cover 4 drop. Namely, your outside corner will not play press against a trips look. So if I were to come right back out in that empty formation that we just started in, notice how my palms looks the exact same as what quarters does when I audible into it. Granted, there is a small difference here that I want to talk about. If you guys audible out of a play, your shell will actually reset. So if I were to come out in quarters with that cover 4 shell on, you will actually see that my linebacker stays in the box. However, if I audible to cover 4 palms, now the shell feature turns off. So that's a small change. I have reported that to somebody DA, and I anticipate that this will get fixed. So if you guys are watching this down the road, might not even be a thing you have to worry about anymore. Our next do of match coverage is that you open up a tab and head over to my strategy website, gridirongameplans.gg. Gridiron is the #1 place to get better at competitive Madden and college football as well. You guys will be able to immediately unlock our game plan, which is our coverage Bible. I've been doing a lot of coverage stuff here to start Madden 26, and you guys have received this all very, very well because it's stopping some of the most popular things you see online. If you struggle with bunch, trips, 4 strong, stem down corners, bombs in general, I will show you guys how I set up my coverages against all different offensive alignments. It is the best defensive product I have ever put out. I'll tell you this right now, I've got a Discord with over 3,000 members, ecstatic with how they're playing coverage in a game where if you look around the community, most players are struggling to get stops right now with their coverage. And a lot of the other game plans and ebooks on the market right now tell you a blitz and then tell you to just switch stick everything. If you're tired of hearing switch stick, go check out that, because I'm going to show you guys how to get your AI in position to make plays. On top of that, you'll unlock everything else on the website. I've got so much content in our vault focused on the meta and how to counter it. And you guys can take a look at my bunch tight end offensive game plan as well. So make sure you guys open up a tab and head over to gridirongameplans.gg, link in the description. Our next tip to improve your match coverage is do not shade. I've heard people say that shading inside and outside makes the coverage play better. It doesn't. That's placebo. It has no effect. I've tested this every year. If you believe it works, good for you. I'm not a believer, but I'll certainly tell you that shading up and down hurts the coverage because it changes your flat zones either into hard flats, or if you shade up, it turns it into curl flats. Neither of these are matching flat zones, and the flat zone is the driver of match coverage. In other words, if you're in a cover 4 quarters, palms, cover 6, the presence of a quarter flat tells the 3 rec hook as well as the deep zones on that side of the field to match. So Basically, what I could show you here is I can turn match off on the right side of the field by changing Urlacher from a quarter flat to a hard flat. But the left side of the screen is going to play match coverage. So take a look at this. If I were to run a streak and a corner route here on the right, you will not see match. But if I run the exact same combo on the left, you will see matching behavior. So we snap this ball. Look at how this is match on the left and it is zone on the right here with that A receiver being wide open. Do not shade because you turn off your quarter flats by changing them to hard flats or curl flats. The same can be said for cover 3 match as well with seam flats. If you shade them down, they go to hard flats. If you shade them up, they turn into curl flats. You're not going to get matching behavior when you shade up and down. You have to have matching flat zones for match to be a thing. Our next don't, and this is one that I get every single year, is can I set zone drops? And the answer to that question is no, never, absolutely not, except for what I'm going to show you in our next tip, but hear me out right now. If you set any value, I don't care if you set hooks, curl flats, or regular flats. In fact, I will show you here by setting flats to 30, this is going to override the drop depth for hard flats, cloud flats, and soft squat zones. None of these are found in cover 4 quarters, but you're going to see that because I have any of my zone drops set, that this turns off match coverage. So you're not going to see matching here. You're going to see drop zone out of this coverage. So you see here how those safeties and how those corners are just dropping back with the vertical threats and you don't have match on the sideline. I could even prove this here by putting a post route. You're going to see nobody's going to follow Owens here and he's just going to break wide open in the middle of the field. So no match on this play. And that's because you set zone drops in the background on your coach menu. But I was kind of fudging it a little bit because this trick is a must-have if you do like to run zone drops and mix in match. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to leave those flats on right now, or actually let's set curl flats to 30 because that overrides curl flats, quarter flats, and seam flats. So if I break the huddle with zone drops on for my curl flats, we just explained that they won't play match because they're zone dropped. You see that they're exaggerated. They're dropping all the way back 30 yards off the field. If you want to turn your zone drops on, thus turning your match coverage back on, all you have to do is reset your play. To do this, hit X or square, and then you're going to hit the left trigger or L2 to reset your play. This is going to turn your zone drops off, and thus your match coverage turns back on. So now what you're going to see here is, let's run that post to TO. You're going to see a guy trying to match it across the field. You see right there that it's contested, albeit he's still got enough position for that to be a touchdown, but you saw that the match was very much back on. So if you're the type of player that likes to come out with maybe your curl flat set to like 0 or 5, and then on the fly, turn those off, all you have to do is reset your play. Which brings us to building on that topic. One of the things that I cannot recommend enough that so many other players would not recommend is to keep the play that you break the huddle in your audibles. So reminder, we have zone drops on here for our curl flats. If I break the huddle in cover 4 quarters, but I also have cover 4 quarters in my audible, this gives me flexibility to turn zone drops on and off, thus match on and off as many times as I would like. Check this out. Zone drops are on, therefore match is off. We just explained that if I reset my play, X left trigger, zone drops are now off and match is back on. But what happens if my opponent flips, audibles into something completely different, and now all of a sudden I want to run quarters but with zone drops on? If I reset the play again, that does nothing. But if I audible into it fresh because it's in my audible set, you will see that our zone drops turn back on. The other way of thinking about this is a fresh audible into any other play turns zone drops back on. So if I reset my play, zone drops are off. If I audible into any other play, let's audible into cover 6 here, it's going to audible into cover 6 with zone drops back on. Thus, it will not match. So this is why I like to have all of the matching coverages that I will call in any game, even if I break the huddle in them, as audibles to give me a fresh look. This way I can play match, I can play zone drops, I can turn off zone drops to play match, or I could audible fresh back into my zone drops on the fly as many times as I want. This is one of those sneaky, super underrated tips that hardly anybody uses, except for people that follow this channel and Gridiron. And I will tell you, you will be all the better for being able to turn these off and on as much as you want. Just understand that resetting the play turns it off, audibling into the play turns it back on. You keep that in the back of your mind, you'll never forget it. You'll always play better defense, being able to turn these on and off as much as you want. So enough about zone drops. Let's get into our next do and don't. And that is to lab your user. Now, I'm not going to go too far into match coverage rules here, but a lot of times, depending on your coverage call, you can find players that have freedom. Let's call a little cover 4 palms. With cover 4 palms, and we've talked about this before here on the channel, so again, a reminder to subscribe if you haven't already. In palms, we have better logic against trips, and that leaves this lone safety on the backside that has no slot receiver. Now, if our opponent were to motion across to what is called a 2x2, now all of a sudden this safety does have responsibility. So my user choice would likely become a player with more freedom, namely this 3-rec hook, or if I picked up a tendency on my opponent, he doesn't ever send Terrell Owens on the right vertical, that would become my new user, because when somebody doesn't attack my safety vertical, my safety can now do whatever he wants. He can freestyle over the middle, poach, shallow in breaking routes, double team someone. I can come down and do really anything. So paying attention to your opponent's tendencies, but also knowing the player with the most freedom is going to only improve your coverage call. The other reason I say lab your users is that there's actually some different rules for some of the other coverages here. So I'm going to run a little cover 6 right here to explain what I'm talking about. And with this, I'm going to call a little what is called 2x2, and I'm going to send the running back into the flat. So take a look at this here. If I run a drag, I run a flat, and I run like a post or something vertical here, and I am running a cover 6 defense, and I'm usering this player, I want you to, and I'm not going to do anything here, I'm just going to stand in the middle of the field. I want you to kind of just watch who your assignment ends up needing to be. You can pretty plainly tell that that's the running back in the flat. But now watch. If I user someone else, like maybe this quarter flat, whose job is just to reroute the slot and be over on the left, and I run the exact same route combo, you're going to notice that the way that the coverage plays is considerably different. Remember, our responsibility when I was on the 3-rec hook was the running back. The vertical hook played the drag. Now check this out. When I snap the ball, notice how these players swap a little bit, and I have a little bit of freedom in the middle of the field with the way that we're playing match coverage. So basically, if you understand who you're using or what your responsibilities are when you user, you will notice that when you user around the defense and start to like go to other players, that sometimes the rules of the coverage change and become smarter. The game just assumes that you're dumber than the AI coding. We don't really know the coding unless you like sit there meticulously. So they don't want to over confuse you with the idea that, oh, hey, you're the 3-rec hook, you take the first thing across the middle. Even though that should be something that anybody running match coverage should learn, and I teach those things on Gridiron, because you're using it, the game wants to simplify it as much as possible, and it basically says, hey, Urlacher, you play him, hey, Witherspoon, you play him, and this guy is responsible for the running back. So it basically turns the right side of the defense into straight 2-man under, which isn't necessary. But when I decide to basically get off of that player, you will notice that then all of a sudden you start to get better behaviors, and you'll be able to, play your match coverage, and it just plays better in general because they're able to swap off and kind of, bump around a little bit. Okay, so really, really cool trick. Again, sometimes lurking on the linebackers is good. Sometimes it's better if you don't. So lab your users and know your role. And that will do it for the tips to make your match coverage better. Madden 26 edition. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure you guys are subscribed, hit that notification bell. We'll be back tomorrow with another upload. Until then, this is Zan. Get in the lab and good luck.